Hey Matador fans, welcome back to Crelling's Corner. This week in our installment we're going to talk about the never neglected but often abused push-up. Now I'm here with our CSUN marketing major, Camille Malconnect. She also happens to be the Big West Defensive Player of the Year 2014 and has the school record in career blocks. So Camille is here, and it's a perfect scenario for the push-up because, as I said a moment ago, the push-up is often abused, and it's sort of this thrown out as a, hey, go do push-ups or 5 push-ups, and it's the technique is rarely perfected and rarely worked on. And it's a fabulous exercise. It's fantastic. It gets the core, it gets the shoulders, obviously the upper body, and it kind of corrects us and teaches us how to use our core and be in the right position. But when you're doing it wrong, it actually does the opposite. And the issue is many female athletes, particularly female athletes with long arms, really struggle with push-ups and can rarely come into a setting and just bang out push-ups. I would say of the athletes I work with, maybe 20% of females without any training can do proper push-ups the right way. So we're going to talk about how to get the push-up done correctly and how to get our athletes and train our athletes into being able to do it the proper way. Now the first thing we got to do with the push-up is we need to start with just the push-up position, the top of that. So I'm going to have Camille come down here. And many times athletes cannot even hold a proper position, and then they're asked to do that position while moving. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the most important and what's happening here in the midsection, the core. We want this to be a straight line, and a lot of times, go ahead and let your hips sag. This is what you get a lot of times, and you can see the excessive curve in the spine here. What you want is, you want the belt line to be closer to the ribs, so it's like we're rotating the hips this way, and you've got this nice flat table here. If there's too much of a curve going this way in the back, that's not what we want. So we want a nice flat back. The cue is belly button away from the floor, and perhaps belt line and ribs come together. Camille wants to push away from the floor as much as she can. So let your shoulder blades relax. If you see these big wings right here, that you know that that athlete needs to push away from the ground, go ahead, push away, and that's the best cue. Okay, so we've got a flat back, we're pushing away from the ground. The next thing we need is we need this arm to be perpendicular to the floor. So the cue that I give is imagine your fingertips are on the edge of a cliff and you want to be looking over that cliff. So if your head is, go ahead and back up, Camille, so that your head is way back here. If your butt is in the air and your head is looking over your hands, that's not looking over the cliff. So we want to make sure we get that butt down a little bit, and then the head should be looking over that side. And now, last two things here, we want to make sure with the shoulders, we want to try and pretend like we're trying to unscrew a really tight jar while keeping the fingers straight. So imagine her hands are here. She's going to try and do this with her hands, and that's going to get the insides of her elbows facing forward, and it's going to get her lat muscle right here to tighten up. Okay? And then the last thing we want to talk about is what we do with the head. Go ahead and drop your head. A lot of times you see athletes start in this really relaxed neck position. What we really want is, we call it stacking the neck. So we want to pretend like there's a book on the floor here, and that book is a little bit too close for you to read, so you have to tuck your chin and pull your face away so that you can make out the letters. Okay? So we've got straight line, belly button's away from the ground, she's pushing away from the floor, she's unscrewing those lids, and she's stacking her neck. Okay? Once we've got this, now we can work. And a lot of times, I had to start with my athletes just holding this position. You're probably shaking a little bit. You're getting a little bit tired. Yeah. We start our athletes just being able to hold that position first before we do any push-ups. Go ahead and stand up, Camille. Now, once your athletes have mastered that, you probably need, yeah, it's pretty tough, right? If you're doing this right, you feel it in your abs and you feel it in your shoulders as well. Okay? If you don't feel it in your abs at all and they're not a little shaken when you're going, then you know you need to fix this position. Now, again, once we've sort of mastered that, just the top position, many of our athletes still don't have the strength to do a proper push-up. So one thing we want to do is we want to make it a little bit easier for them so they can do it properly, and we do that by elevating the hands. So if we can get a bench or a box or a ledge or a step, anything that kind of gets her hands a little bit higher in relation to her feet, that's going to make it easier. Now from here, same things we talked about. We've got a tight core, she's pushing away from the bench, she's trying to unscrew those jar lids. That means her elbow pits are facing forward, she's stacking her neck, and then none of that is going to change. Keeping the core tight, she's going to go ahead and she's going to bring sternum to the bench. Go ahead, Camille. She touches and back up. And notice, go ahead and give us a couple reps. After every single rep, she pops all the way back up and she reclaims that good shoulder position. Go ahead and pop all the way up. And she unscrews the jar, gets the elbow pitched forward. Neck never comes unstacked. One more rep. Beautiful. And then the last progression, you're good, Camille, the last progression we would do, once we've sort of been able to do maybe 5 or 6 on the bench or on the box or the step, whatever you've done, we'll train that upwards of 6 weeks. It takes quite a long time to develop the strength. Then we'll go to the floor, and then even on the floor sometimes, we have to just do really controlled motions on the way down. So staying tight, she goes nice and controlled on the way down, good and slow, abs stay tight, whole body hits the ground, and then we'll have her lay here, relax, and then from this position push back up and then reclaim everything. She's going to have to get all the way back up, reestablish this, and reestablish this every rep. One more. Beautiful. Pop back up. So that's the push-up. Let's go ahead and get away from letting our athletes, can you show us a bad rep actually? Can you show us a couple bad reps here? So push-up position, she's not going to screw the jar lid. She's got elbows flaring out. We see this a lot. Her head is dropped. Her butt is way in the air, and go ahead and start just bending the elbows. We see this a lot. Now we don't want to, go ahead, keep going, give us a few more. We can do a lot more push-ups this way, but we don't want to train our body to do this position. So let's get away from that. Let's teach the proper position. Let's get them on the bench. Let's control them on the way down, and then sort of reestablish that athletic movement. Good?
Great.
Beautiful. Thanks, Camille. Thanks, Matador fans. See you next time.